Hey, wrestling fans! Today, we're taking a heartfelt look back at some of the legends we've lost. Icons who gave everything they had in the ring and left behind a legacy that still inspires. From unforgettable matches to moments that made history, we're honoring the warriors who shaped wrestling as we know it. Their stories still echo in every arena. And stick around, because at the end, we've got breaking news about Seth Rollins that's going to send shockwaves through the wrestling world. Let's jump in and pay tribute together. Rocky Johnson, born on August 24, 1944, in Amherst, Nova Scotia, Canada, carved out a remarkable legacy as one of the most groundbreaking figures in professional wrestling. Long before his son, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, became a global icon, Rocky was paving the way in an industry that was not always welcoming to wrestlers of color. Growing up with humble beginnings, he carried a determination and resilience that would later define his career inside the ring. Johnson began wrestling in the 1960s, competing across regional promotions throughout Canada and the United States. At a time when opportunities for African-American wrestlers were scarce, his natural charisma, athletic build, and lightning-quick agility made him stand out. Fans were drawn to his powerful punches, dazzling drop kicks, and confident personality, which helped him break through barriers in a predominantly white sport. His biggest breakthrough came in the late 1970s, when he joined the World Wrestling Federation, WWF. There, he teamed with Tony Atlas to form the legendary tag team known as the Soul Patrol. In 1983, they made history by capturing the WWF World Tag Team Championship, becoming the first African-American duo to achieve such a milestone. This victory was more than just a title win. It was a statement of progress in the wrestling world. After retiring in the 1990s, Rocky dedicated himself to mentoring young talent and supporting the industry he loved. Inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2008, his influence continues to inspire. Even after his passing in 2020 at the age of 75, Rocky Johnson's trailblazing spirit and contributions remain etched in wrestling history. Road Warrior Animal, born Joseph Michael Laurinaitis on September 12, 1960, was more than just a professional wrestler. He was a larger-than-life figure who helped redefine tag team wrestling for an entire generation. Best known as one half of the legendary duo, the Road Warriors, alongside his partner Hawk Animal, became a symbol of intensity, dominance, and raw energy inside the squared circle. Together, they were not just wrestlers. They were an unstoppable force that captivated audiences across the globe. The Road Warriors' look alone made them unforgettable. With spiked shoulder pads, intimidating face paint, and a ferocious attitude, they brought a sense of danger and excitement every time they stepped into the ring. Their persona blended the rebellious spirit of punk culture with sheer athleticism, creating a new standard for what it meant to be a badass in professional wrestling. Fans instantly connected with their presence, and promoters recognized their unmatched drawing power. From the mid-1980s, Animal and Hawk dominated promotions like the National Wrestling Alliance, NWA, and World Championship Wrestling, WCW, collecting multiple tag team championships and leaving a trail of battered opponents in their wake. Their hard-hitting style and relentless energy made them icons, inspiring countless future tag teams. After Hawk's passing in 2003, Animal carried their legacy forward, making special appearances and continuing to honor the bond they shared. In 2011, their groundbreaking contributions were immortalized with an induction into the WWE Hall of Fame. When Animal passed away in 2020 at age 60, he left behind not just records and titles, but a legacy of brotherhood, toughness, and passion that will forever remain a part of wrestling history. Bray Wyatt, born Wyndham Lawrence Rotunda on May 23, 1987 in Brooksville, Florida, was much more than just a professional wrestler. He was a storyteller, an artist, and a creative mind who reshaped how fans experienced wrestling. Coming from a proud wrestling lineage, With his father Mike Rotunda, best known as IRS in WWE, and his legendary grandfather Blackjack Mulligan, Wyatt carried the weight of tradition while carving out his own unique identity. His early days in WWE's developmental system, Florida Championship Wrestling, FCW, saw him compete as Husky Harris, a straightforward powerhouse. Yet, it wasn't until he reinvented himself as Bray Wyatt, the eerie cult leader of the Wyatt family, that his brilliance shined. With his haunting, lantern-lit entrances, cryptic promos, and the unforgettable mantra, "Follow the Buzzards," Wyatt created a chilling Southern Gothic persona that captivated audiences. Alongside Eric Rowan, Luke Harper, Brody Lee, and later Braun Strowman, the Wyatt family became a dominant and unforgettable force. Wyatt's most daring transformation came in 2019 with the birth of The Fiend, a grotesque, horror-inspired alter ego that blurred the lines between nightmare and reality. The Fiend's chilling mask, violent presence, and theatrical storytelling pushed WWE into bold new creative territory, proving Wyatt's genius for reinvention. Throughout his career, he captured multiple championships, including the WWE and Universal titles. But his true legacy lies in the atmosphere he created, the sense that anything could happen when Bray Wyatt appeared. His untimely passing on August 24, 2023, at just 36 years old, left the wrestling world heartbroken. Even in death, his influence endures, reminding fans that wrestling is not only about competition, but also about the art of imagination and storytelling. Chyna. Born Joan Marie Laurer on December 27, 1969, was more than just a professional wrestler. She was a trailblazer who forever changed the landscape of sports entertainment. Standing tall at 5 feet 10 inches with a muscular yet commanding presence, she entered World Wrestling Entertainment (WWE) during the late 1990s, a time when the industry was dominated by men. Her arrival was nothing short of groundbreaking. Nicknamed the Ninth Wonder of the World, Chyna shattered long-standing gender barriers, proving that women could stand toe-to-toe with some of wrestling's most celebrated superstars. Her career skyrocketed during WWE's electrifying Attitude Era. Fans watched in awe as she fearlessly clashed with top names like Triple H, Chris Jericho, and Kurt Angle, bringing a rare mix of power, charisma, and athleticism to the ring. Her impact was cemented when she became the first and only woman to capture the Intercontinental Championship, a belt traditionally reserved for men, while also holding the Women's Championship, showcasing her unmatched versatility. Beyond wrestling, Chyna's influence extended to Hollywood and television. She appeared in films and reality shows such as The Surreal Life and Celebrity Rehab with Dr. Drew, where audiences saw both her strength and her struggles. Though she faced personal battles, particularly with addiction, her legacy remains powerful. Chyna passed away in 2016 at age 46, but she continues to inspire generations of women to dream bigger, fight harder, and break boundaries once thought impossible. Blackjack Mulligan, born Robert John Heck on November 25, 1942, was far more than just another professional wrestler. He was a towering presence who left an unforgettable mark on the sport. Standing an incredible 6 feet 9 inches tall and weighing well over 300 pounds, Mulligan carried an aura of intimidation that made him one of the most recognizable figures inside the squared circle. His sheer size, paired with his rugged, tough-as-nails persona, allowed him to connect with fans who admired his no-nonsense approach to wrestling. Mulligan's journey began in the 1960s, a time when wrestling was rapidly growing in popularity across regional promotions. With his cowboy-inspired look, booming voice, and natural charisma, he quickly stood out from the crowd. His signature move, the sleeper hold, was a perfect reflection of his style, simple, punishing, and highly effective. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, Mulligan became a mainstay in the wrestling world, forming memorable tag teams with stars such as Ernie Ladd, Greg Valentine, and even his own son, Barry Windham. Championship gold followed him wherever he went, including reigns with the NWA United States Tag Team Championship and the WWF World Tag Team Championship. Later, his lasting impact was honored with an induction into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2017. Beyond competing, Mulligan also worked as a promoter and trainer, shaping future generations of wrestlers. He passed away at 73, leaving behind a legacy of grit, mentorship, and enduring respect. In Paris, WWE fans witnessed a main event that felt larger than life. Seth Rollins defending his World Heavyweight Championship against Jey Uso, CM Punk, and LA Knight. This wasn't just a match, it was a collision of stories, emotions, and legacies. Each superstar brought something unique. Jey with his raw passion, LA Knight with his unshakable charisma, Punk with his veteran grit, and Rollins with his relentless resilience. The atmosphere inside the arena was electric, with fans living and breathing every second. From shocking near falls to breathtaking counters, Clash in Paris 2025 delivered unforgettable moments, cementing its place as one of WWE's most dramatic nights. The Paris atmosphere. Paris on this night felt less like a city and more like the heartbeat of professional wrestling. Long before the first bell rang, the energy radiating from the Accor Arena made it clear that WWE had struck gold by bringing a major premium live event to France. Fans had lined up for hours outside, waving banners painted with their favorite wrestlers' names, chanting in both English and French, and turning the streets around the arena into a carnival of excitement. Inside, the atmosphere was nothing short of electric. French wrestling fans are known globally for their passion and creativity, and that reputation was on full display. Chants broke out spontaneously, songs carried through the rafters, and every entrance theme echoed like a national anthem. The event didn't just feel like a WWE show, it felt like a celebration of wrestling itself, something historic that those in attendance would boast about being part of for generations. For Seth Rollins, walking into that environment meant that this wasn't just about defending his title. It was about rising to the occasion in a setting where failure felt unimaginable. Seth Rollins' entrance and the weight of a champion. When Seth Rollins made his entrance, it was as if the entire city of Paris became his choir. Thousands of voices joined together in song, turning his now iconic theme into an anthem that rattled the arena. Dressed in flamboyant attire that blended arrogance with artistry, Rollins exuded confidence as he strutted to the ring. Yet behind the bravado was a man pushing his body to the brink. For months, Rollins had been dealing with nagging injuries, knees, back, and shoulders that had been punished night after night. He had kept much of that pain hidden, refusing to show weakness, because that's what champions do. But this night wasn't just about putting on another 5-star performance. It was about proving that he could still outlast the younger, hungrier competition, despite his body screaming otherwise. The champion knew that one wrong move could cost him everything, but his pride and determination left him no choice but to risk it all. Jey Uso's determination and the fight for independence. When Jey Uso's music hit, Paris roared with chants of "Yeet," shaking the very foundations of the arena. For Jey, this was more than just another chance at championship glory. It was about redefining his career and stepping out of the massive shadow of his family's dynasty. For years, Jey had been celebrated as one half of one of the greatest tag teams in WWE history, but he was often labeled as a sidekick or simply Jimmy's brother. That narrative weighed on him, and leaving the bloodline was his boldest move yet. This match was his chance to prove that he belonged among the elite as a singles competitor, that he wasn't destined to be remembered only for family alliances or betrayals. His face carried determination, his body language fed off the crowd's energy, and yet deep inside he knew he was climbing a mountain steeper than any before. Facing 3 established stars, Jay had to fight not only for the championship, but for his legacy as an individual warrior. CM Punk's polarizing return and quest for redemption. CM Punk's entrance ignited a reaction few superstars could ever dream of commanding. The Accor Arena was split like a battlefield. Half of the crowd erupted in cheers fueled by nostalgia, while the other half booed with venom, unwilling to forgive his past controversies. Punk thrived on this polarity, feeding off both the love and the hate. This was his world: chaos, conflict, and intensity. For Punk, the match wasn't only about chasing the World Heavyweight Championship. It was about proving to himself and the industry that he still had it, that time and injuries hadn't dulled his fire. But there was no denying the risks. His body wasn't the same as it was during his prime years, and every hard landing carried the possibility of ending his comeback run prematurely. Still, Punk wore that chip on his shoulder proudly. To him, this wasn't just another match. It was a stage to reclaim respect, to remind everyone why his name had once shaken the industry to its core. LA Knight's popularity surge and the people's champion. When LA Knight's music hit, the reaction in Paris was deafening. His arrival felt less like an entrance and more like a cultural moment, as thousands of fans shouted every catchphrase with perfect timing. "Yeah!" echoed through the arena like thunder, each response louder than the last. Knight's rise in WWE had been anything but easy. Years of false starts, missed opportunities, and the constant grind of trying to get noticed. Yet his charisma, sharp wit, and undeniable connection to the fans had propelled him into superstardom. Paris embraced him as if he were one of their own, chanting along with every word. This was his shot to prove that his popularity wasn't fleeting or gimmick-driven. It was real, it was lasting, and it could translate into championship gold. For Knight, the stakes were clear. This was the night to silence critics and cement himself as more than just a fan favorite. It was the night to show he could be the face of WWE's future. The opening chaos. Clash of 4 titans. When the bell finally rang, the atmosphere exploded, and all 4 men wasted no time throwing themselves into the fray. Alliances formed quickly, only to dissolve moments later, as ambition proved stronger than teamwork. Seth Rollins and CM Punk clashed almost instantly, reigniting an old rivalry that fans had long dreamed of seeing revisited. Every exchange between them was loaded with history, each strike a reminder of their unresolved tension. Meanwhile, Jey Uso and LA Knight went toe-to-toe in a battle of grit and power, trading punches that had the crowd roaring with each impact. The opening minutes were a whirlwind of movement, near falls, and sudden counters. Nobody wanted to give an inch, and every attempt at control was met with a furious response. The fans in Paris stayed on their feet, sensing that this wasn't going to be a typical fatal 4-way. It was going to be a war where every man had something deeply personal to prove. Seth Rollins' risk-taking and the toll of greatness Rollins quickly reminded the world why he was known as the Visionary. His offensive arsenal was on full display, filled with breathtaking dives, springboard attacks, and moves that left the audience gasping. At one point, he launched himself over the top rope, crashing onto both Punk and Knight, sending the crowd into a frenzy. Yet with every high-risk move came an even higher price. Fans began to notice Rollins clutching his back after hard landings, his face wincing as he fought through the pain. It was clear that his injuries were no longer secrets. They were visible, real, and threatening his ability to continue. Still, Rollins refused to slow down. His pride as champion wouldn't allow it, and his desire to prove himself in front of an international audience only fueled his determination. For Rollins, this match wasn't just another defense. It was a test of willpower, a demonstration of what it truly meant to carry the company on your back. CM Punk's veteran tactics and mind games. In contrast to Rollins' high-risk style, CM Punk leaned into his veteran instincts. He slowed the pace whenever possible, targeting weaknesses and picking his spots with precision. Punk mocked Rollins, taunted Jay, and antagonized Knight, using every trick in the book to turn the match into a psychological battle as much as a physical one. At times, he baited his opponents into mistakes, rolling them up for sudden near falls that had the crowd gasping. Punk's experience shone through, showing that while his body might have slowed, his mind for the game was as sharp as ever. Yet for every moment he gained control, the younger, hungrier stars pulled it back with sheer explosiveness. Paris reveled in the drama, watching a master manipulator attempt to bend the chaos to his will, only to be constantly interrupted by the raw energy of those desperate to outshine him. Punk thrived on that challenge, feeding on the boos, the cheers, and everything in between, proving that no matter what, he remained one of the most captivating figures in wrestling. Jey Uso's emotional fire. Jey Uso's performance in Paris was not simply about executing moves inside the squared circle. It was a story of heart, persistence, and transformation. For much of his career, Jey was known as one half of one of WWE's most decorated tag teams, the Usos. Alongside his twin brother Jimmy, he became synonymous with tag team excellence, winning multiple championships and leaving a legacy of dominance. But in recent years, Jey's path shifted, and the audience began to see him as more than a tag team specialist. His battles with Roman Reigns and his participation in the Bloodline storyline revealed a depth of emotion and individuality that fans had long suspected but had never truly seen. In Paris, all of that history and passion came flooding back. Every super kick Jey delivered was more than just a strike. It was a symbolic act of independence, of fighting not just an opponent, but the perception that he was only ever part of a duo. The desperation in his eyes reflected years of near misses and close calls in singles competition, and the determination in his movements reminded everyone that he was still carving his identity in an unforgiving business. The Paris crowd, sensing this, rallied behind him in full force, chanting his name with every near fall, urging him forward as if their energy alone could will him to victory. In those moments, Jey wasn't just a wrestler. He was a man chasing redemption. LA Knight's fan connection. If Jey Uso was the emotional heartbeat of the match, LA Knight was its pulse of charisma and energy. Few performers in recent years have managed to cultivate a fan following as quickly and as passionately as Knight. His journey to this moment had been long, marked by years of grinding in the wrestling world under various personas and promotions. When he finally hit his stride in WWE, it was as though everything clicked into place at once. The Paris crowd echoed that sentiment. Every single gesture, from his exaggerated taunts to his thunderous strikes, was amplified by the deafening "yeah" chants that have become his signature. Knight's greatest strength was not just in-ring ability, but his uncanny connection with the audience. He knew when to slow down and play to them, when to pick up the pace, and when to inject himself into the chaos of a multi-man match to leave an impact. His clashes with CM Punk in particular felt electric. The younger star, standing toe-to-toe with one of wrestling's most polarizing veterans, created a dynamic that was both fresh and deeply personal, as if Knight were fighting not just for the win, but for validation on a global stage. His presence ensured that even in a match packed with star power, he was never overlooked. The match reaches its peak. As the minutes ticked away, the match began to take on a fever pitch, one where intensity became its own language. The brutality did not come in the form of blood or deliberate harm, but in the sheer physical demand placed on every competitor. The sound of bodies crashing against steel barricades reverberated through the arena, each thud met with gasps from the Paris faithful. High-impact slams rattled the ring ropes, shaking the canvas as if to remind everyone of the toll being exacted on these athletes' bodies. Sweat poured down faces, muscles tightened under strain, and exhaustion began to creep into every movement. Yet, despite the fatigue, no one slowed down. The Paris crowd fed them energy, refusing to sit down, waving signs, and screaming at every single near fall. Each 2 count carried more weight than the last, as though the audience collectively forgot to breathe until the referee's hand hovered above the mat. The outcome felt increasingly uncertain, and that uncertainty created magic. Wrestling at its peak is about suspension of disbelief, and on this night, the fans were entirely swept away, unable to predict who would walk out as champion. The turning point. Every great wrestling match has a moment that shifts the trajectory of the story, and in Paris, that moment belonged to Seth Rollins and CM Punk. Rollins, who had already been competing through obvious pain, climbed to the top rope in a desperate bid to secure victory. His body betrayed him, but his determination carried him upward. Just as he prepared to leap, Punk, the battle-hardened veteran with a sixth sense for counters, struck with perfect timing. In an instant, both men came crashing to the mat in a heap of agony. The sound of bodies colliding with the canvas echoed like a gunshot through the arena, drawing horrified gasps from the crowd. Rollins clutched his knee and lower back, his face contorted in visible pain. Medical staff at ringside moved in, but Rollins waved them away, his pride and grit unwilling to let the fight end prematurely. That refusal, that image of a battered champion pushing through when his body screamed otherwise, became a defining snapshot of the night. Punk, too, showed his resilience, but for Rollins the stakes felt higher. His body was breaking down, yet his willpower refused to yield. The final moments. As the match reached its final stretch, chaos gave way to pure adrenaline. One by one, finishers were unleashed in rapid succession, and with each impact, the crowd's disbelief grew louder. Jey Uso struck with a picture-perfect super kick on LA Knight, a move so crisp and devastating that fans were convinced it was the end. The referee's hand hit the mat twice before CM Punk dove in at the last second to break the pin, triggering a collective roar. Punk seized the moment, driving Rollins into the canvas with the GTS, but Rollins, fueled by desperation, kicked out to another eruption of cheers. LA Knight, seizing his chance amidst the wreckage, hit his blunt force trauma on Punk, and for a split second, Paris believed the title was his. But Rollins, battered, limping, and running on fumes, summoned an almost inhuman surge of energy. With one final push, he delivered a crushing stomp to Punk, followed by another to Knight, before collapsing across his opponent for the 3 count. The bell rang and the arena exploded, not only in celebration of Rollins' victory, but in sheer awe of the effort they had just witnessed. The aftermath in Paris. The bell signaled the end of the contest, but the story did not stop there. As Rollins lay flat on the mat, chest heaving, the Paris crowd rose to their feet in unison. The ovation that followed was not merely applause, it was a collective acknowledgement of greatness. Thousands of voices merged into one, thanking Rollins for giving every ounce of himself, even at great personal cost. For Jey Uso, Punk, and LA Knight, the night was far from a failure. Each man walked away with credibility enhanced, their performances proving that they belonged in the conversation of main event caliber talents. Yet, the story of the night was Rollins' resilience. In an era where audiences often demand authenticity, seeing a champion fight through visible agony struck a chord deeper than any scripted promo could ever achieve. The Paris crowd, many of whom had traveled across Europe to witness the event, knew they had seen something unforgettable, something that would live in the memory of WWE history. Seth Rollins' health concerns. But behind the celebration lingered an air of concern. Reports emerged in the days following the match that Rollins had aggravated existing injuries, particularly to his knee and lower back. While not life-threatening, these injuries were significant enough to require ongoing medical attention and physical therapy. Rollins had always prided himself on being the workhorse of WWE, the man willing to push through pain and deliver show-stealing performances night after night. Yet the human body has limits, and fans began to wonder if they were witnessing the breaking point of one of wrestling's most durable performers. Social media buzzed with both admiration and worry, with hashtags of support flooding timelines. The question wasn't whether Rollins could still perform. He had just proven he could. It was whether he should. Could he sustain another lengthy reign without risking permanent damage? Could he balance the passion that drove him with the reality that his long-term health might be slipping away? These were questions that loomed larger than the championship belt itself. Financial and personal pressures. Physical pain was only one piece of the puzzle for Rollins. Beyond the ring, he faced the pressures of being a global superstar with responsibilities extending far beyond wrestling. While his paycheck was significant, the lifestyle came with costs: constant travel, time away from home, and the challenge of balancing fame with family. His wife, Becky Lynch, herself one of WWE's biggest stars, faced the same balancing act. Together, they navigated the complexities of raising a family while maintaining careers that demanded relentless schedules and physical risk. Rollins had also invested in personal ventures, from his wrestling school to various business projects, which required both time and financial commitment. Rumors circulated that he was considering a part-time schedule, not out of financial necessity, but as a way to protect his health and preserve stability for his family. To fans, these decisions were deeply humanizing. Rollins was not just the architect or the visionary. He was a husband, a father, and a man trying to ensure his family's future while still chasing the passion that defined his life. Current status and legacy today: Seth Rollins remains the reigning World Heavyweight Champion, but his reign feels different from those before. There is an undeniable aura of uncertainty that surrounds it, a sense that every title defense could be his last great stand. Fans admire his determination, but they also find themselves urging him to think about longevity over glory. Wrestling history is filled with legends whose careers were cut short by pushing too hard for too long, and the WWE Universe does not want Rollins to become another cautionary tale. Yet whatever the future holds, one truth remains unshakable. Clash in Paris 2025 will go down as one of the defining moments of his career. It was a night when passion clashed with pain, when determination outlasted doubt, and when Seth Rollins reminded the world why he belongs in the conversation of the greatest performers of his generation. Whether he chooses to step back or press forward, his resilience and sacrifice will forever stand as a testament to his legacy.